Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Welcome to what I would refer to as the Guido Migliozzi Open. Italian Open has made its way. Ryder Cup venue preview. Second time we've been around this edition here. I would say also we're coming off of a massive week on the DP World Tour last week with Wentworth. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough event, right, to get a grasp on because of what happened. Obviously, losing the Queen on Thursday and play kind of being halted on Friday and not kind of knowing what happened. And I always wonder when it turns into a three-round event, what could have been like. And you don't want to get too hung up on that, but like we saw it kind of, was it the Czech Masters recently where we saw 3 rounds, and you just wonder if someone like Peters at Czech Masters and then like someone like Billy Horschel this week at Wentworth, like what would they have done with another round? Like it feels like they could have got going. So in a completely biased point of view, I'd love Molinari and Horschel to have had another round because it felt like they had their bad round on Sunday, which was tough, despite the fact they actually put some decent scores in. But yeah, I mean, coming down to back 9, obviously Rahm posts a number. I didn't see any of Rahm. I just saw that he'd posted the score. And then, it's kind of between, it felt like it was between Rory, Victor and Lowry, right? And Lowry looked pretty much in control. We sort of said at the start, I think we both kind of agreed at the start of last week that he was the guy that was the safest play. I think, we didn't know necessarily what the upside was in terms of winning, but we were pretty comfortable that he was the safest. So then it just leaves I think Rory, just a couple of bad wedges, just a couple of putts. It was really unlucky not to make that eagle on the last hole. I guess the only real disappointment out of the top bunch was Fitz.
Yeah, I think going back to your original point, the 54 holes definitely, it factors immensely. I mean, with Gavin Green, that was the week it happened when we bet on Gavin Green, and it felt was in our favor there.
Yes.
I think that the shorter the holes, the higher the variance, the more opportunity for golfers who aren't as elite, in my opinion. The more you play, the more the elites will go to the top. So that's why we see first round leader odds be different than outright odds.
Correct.
So, but when you have the 36 hole leader, having Victor being on Victor last week, then I was relishing the opportunity because all you got to do is hold it off for 18 more holes. You see it both ways in that instance. But yeah, I would have loved to seen a 4th round because all the names at the top of the leaderboard, I mean, that was wild to see. Of course, a lot of live representation there too. Rahm played, not Rahm, excuse me. I'm not breaking any news there.
Breaking news, Rahm has gone for $500 million.
Reed doing what he did, Gooch doing what he did, Westy was in the mix. I played Showdown, and those guys did really, really well. Bland did good on Sunday. Poulter did good on Sunday. So there was a lot of that. But I was so glad to see our guys, really play well. I mean, realistically, to your point, it was the 3-man show of the best golfers. And if you were going to include a 4th, it was Rahm. It was literally the 4 best representation you could have of the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour playing in that event. And then Billy Boy, played quite well. I was happy for Horschel doing that too. So yes, strong showing from the biggest event. Condolences to those, with the Queen passing. Definitely, it's a whole different conversation to have, but hard to understand sometimes the world and how big of a loss that is and the impact on a lot of people and kind of what they've grown up with. That's been for our whole, our entire lives. So pretty crazy kind of fallout. And I think being able to represent the game of golf and showing what they did there, that was a really good as it could have gotten for the DP World Tour this past weekend without you and I hitting an outright winner, unfortunately.
I thought we were really unlucky, right? We haven't even mentioned Zanotti, right? That would have been on 14 under about a double on the last. It just felt like it must be really hard on Friday because I think they cancelled Friday so they could wait and see whether soccer would cancel on Saturday. And if they cancelled soccer on Saturday, I thought they were just going to cancel golf.
Correct.
But then they did cancel the soccer and then didn't cancel golf. And I thought it was a really strange move. So I think all the players are probably thinking soccer's been cancelled. We're not going to go back out. So I think it's probably a really tough mindset. And you kind of saw it some players played well, like Molinari shot 65 on day 2, Rory shot 65 on day 2. People did do it, but I think it's hard to then get yourself up and convert to a 54-hole event and things like that. So I'd like them to do a Monday finish, to be honest, but I guess that makes the logistics of Italy, especially with the field they had, they didn't want to jeopardize that probably.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, no, I think a fun way to go into this event, getting to kind of carry over a good amount of the field. We see obviously Rory showing up. We see Hovland being back here, Fitzy, Hatton, all kind of showing up here, some representation from that standpoint. So I guess walk through, last time we saw this course last year, one of the Højgaards, Nikolai won. We had Adrian Meronk and then Tommy Fleetwood were the top three at Marco Simone when we had it. So if you kind of go through that, and even some of the other guys that were littered across the leaderboard, seems a course where you can really take advantage with the driver. If you know Nikolai, he has to be on that type of course to really get the best out of his game. Meronk is similar in that manner, in my opinion. So I think that's the angle we're going to go, is just off the tee, being the focus, and then backing up from there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think last year, I can't remember exactly what our thoughts were going into the event, but I think it was actually a bit of a surprise that long distance sort of took over here. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and maybe I'm just getting events crossed over, but I think it was a bit of a surprise. We kind of expected a bit more of a technical challenge, and I think when it comes to the Ryder Cup, they might set it up a little bit tougher, obviously, to counteract, because you don't want to make distance important against the American Ryder Cup team, right? So, but yeah, for this event, you see Nikolai Højgaard winning, that kind of gives you a clue. Meronk was pretty flawless on the Sunday. I don't know if he bogeyed at all, but he played very, very well that day. I seem to remember thinking that was a good chance for him to break through. And then, obviously, like you mentioned, you had Fleetwood, you had Bland, you had Kawamura, you had Cahonen. You had people up there that are more technical and don't rely on distance. But then you had Arnaus in 12th. You had Laporta's a decently big hitter. You had kind of Crocker and people like Rasmus Liston, Peters. So, inside the top 20, there was a lot of long distance hitters. And I think with the field this week, you're probably going to have to rely on that, given the top few in the betting.
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, I'm excited. The scary thing of this week, and our show is based around outright betting, is we have Rory, who, if you mention of distance and what could set up well for the week, this is probably a really good course for him. And if he can just dial it, he's plus 430 is the longest odds we see him. So from an implied to, he's got a 20% chance to win. He's about 50% chance to top 5 this event. It's well above. Now you hope you catch the other side of the coin from the way that we're going to be betting this week, or overall, being able to at least cash in on a place if Rory does run away with it. But he's on a mission right now to show that you can play at the level he is and as much as he is everywhere in the world, and more power to him if he continues to play to this degree.
Yes, it's probably not good for John Rahm, who keeps trying to say that him and Rory are not going to have to play those events, right? That he's going to go around and do all this. So, I think we've got a very realistic chance of Rory winning this event. When you look at the fact that he's 6th, 19th, and 11th around the green the last 3 weeks as well, his short game is in good shape. So, long, pretty straight most of the time, irons working. It's scary. But I actually thought Victor Hovland, I'm not tempted by Fitzpatrick at 9 or 10 to 1. I think he played well enough last week to warrant that. Of course, he can win. But Victor Hovland, so he got the big 3, Rory 4s, Fitz 10, Victor Hovland 12. I think Victor's pretty tempting. Last week, he got himself into trouble on the Sunday of driving, hit a few lefts, etc. Not as visually demanding, I don't think, it's golf course. And looking at what happened last year, I think he could probably get away with a few tee shots. So I think at 12-1, he's a pretty good price.
Yeah, we're talking before DraftKings prices come out from a DFS standpoint. He would definitely be someone I'd be interested in. And I think even to the point, I don't disagree with you that Fitzy was somebody who you don't trust of the short-term form, or not trust, the short-term form is not as appealing as the other guys. And in my opinion, what we saw last week, and we got bigger contests for the first time, you really get one opportunity, or maybe 2 if you're lucky, per year if you're a DP World Tour focuser on DraftKings, to take advantage of the big prize pools. Now this week's going to take a drastic step back, but like Lowry was like 6%, Horschel was like 2%, Reed was like 3%, like quote unquote elite golfers or the best guys in the field when they play in these type of events. I think you just can't emphasize only form when it's a peer-to-peer game and trying to get there. Like you could have made some really good ownership plays last week and set yourself up to take down contests. Even 5 of 6s last week because of the 54 holes were right there in the thick of things. So it's going to make me definitely more conscious of that, because when you show up at a DP World Tour event, we see it. Like PGA form is not always reflective of how well they can come over here, even in the strongest of events. So like I think that's it's not going to matter as much this week when you're in a 500-person contest and you play fits, but like when the prizes are big, you got to remember that. So I just wanted to make sure I made that point. But I'm not really starting a card until I guess a little bit deeper into the 40s or 50s for me. Is there anybody that screams to you interest below that?
No. So Minwoo Lee was interesting at 40-1. I think he was well placed here last year and had a good chance to contend, but he finished 12th. He shot 71-73 over the weekend after I think he was leading at the halfway stage after both rounds, I think. So he opened up with a 64 to lead on day one, shot 68 on day two to be two clear of Nows, Fleetwood, Cahonan, Veerman, and then just melted, right? But he's won the Scottish Open. Is that the Scottish Open since then? Or did he win it before that? It was before that, wasn't it?
Just before, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know quite what happened going back to back there at the weekend. Maybe just a bit tough. Maybe Moronk could have been tempting considering what he'd done here last year, but his form just hasn't been great since. So then I started looking at basically Masahiro Kawamura as my first defensive pick.
Okay. Why don't you talk? I mean, I think this is a week where we're not walking in as definitive. I got about a 4-pack here. We'll probably talk to other golfers I could see myself getting onto, but you're definitely in on Kawamura, so talk us through here.
Yeah, we kind of referenced him last week. He's 5th at this course last year. He's really like a strong return to form. He's finished 22nd or better in his last 4 starts. He won in Japan. I think he was only 21 years of age when he won there. Playoff loser in 2018. So we know we can expect a challenge from him at some point. He hasn't quite done it at this DP World Tour level. We lost to McIntyre at the Showdown. So there's been flashes, right? And I just believe in him long term. I do think he can win. I do think that the 50-1 number or 55-1 number that you're getting because you've got Rory Fitz and Victor in the field is pretty good. Like he'd probably be 28-1 if you're missing one or two of those. So I really like the number you're getting on him. I think I'm probably going to knock out Fitz. Again, it sounds ridiculous because he can obviously win, but I think just in my head, if I knock out Fitz, then that makes sort of the rest of the prices more appealing. That's where I'm going with Kawamura. I think he's got all the tools, hitting the ball well enough, in great stead. So 6th, 13th, and 35th, the last 3 in tee to green, and 21st, 18th. He didn't hit the ball great with his irons last week, which may be a bit of a disappointment, but the course is probably more suited this time around.
And he's as long as 66s over here, and I see him as short as 35 in some spots.
Yeah.
So I think just setting yourself up with the places is something that, is a great way to attack overall this week. For me, there's a duo, and I talked about these golfers kind of in tandem last week as well, but I view Kurt Kitayama and Lucas Herbert as very, very similar golfers whose driving distance is kind of let's say, their anchor getting to the green is based off of their distance. And then they both can flash with irons. Kitayama probably better than Herbert when it comes to, consistency with the irons, but lethal short games. Herbert, I would dare say Herbert is the best putter in the world, or potentially a top 5 putter. Our friend Will Haskett had a tweet last week on Herbert's putting, on how he led almost every crucial category last year on the PGA Tour. And he's been somebody who's been crucial. And I just think he can show up and win at almost anywhere off of almost any form personally. And if you can get his Open Championship was we bet him the week before, and then you go into the Open Championship, and it just did not change my opinion at all of him. It's just the way Herbert's game is, and I think that's the way Kitayama's game is. Both of them had top 15 finishes, or at least top 20 finishes in the BMW Championship, which I think was very telling, because that's the strongest field probably of the year that you get outside of a major, is that. So I think 50s for Kitayama, and he's only 50 because he finished 32nd last week. And then, Herbert missed the cut after kind of, again, showing out a little bit earlier, but he's got 3 missed cuts and 3 top 15s in his last 6 events. So to me, I think he's very well can find himself into the winner's circle. 66 is on him. So that's kind of my duo that I'd be starting the card with.
Yeah, so I think I like Herbert more than Kitayama purely because of the difference in price, right? I definitely take on your point that they're both well suited to the test. Kitayama's finished 3rd in the Italian Open in the past at a different course as well. So definitely like Kitayama, but I just think the difference in the price in Herbert, when you factor in, like you say, that he can just win out of nowhere, and that 15th at the BMW Championship is probably not being looked at strongly, and then especially when you get the miscut last week. But he was 28th after round 1, shot a 69 to open at Wentworth, which is no bad score, and then shot a 72 on the Saturday in his round 2, and he misses the cut. And again, another one that 69-72 isn't a bad score, and he finished 9th at the Irish Open and 15th for the Open Championship, and he's been pretty lightly run, but yeah, I mean, he's been really impressive. And that putting is definitely in a course where distance is going to matter and you're going to make a ton of birdies. Your putting is going to come to the fore, and that helps him.
Yeah, I would argue that he's played, if you'd say 6 of the hardest events that he's played this year: the API, Players, the Masters, PGA Championship, U.S. Open, Open Championship, and the BMW. I would say so those are 7. That's 7 events there. And he has top 15s in 4 of those events. And with no form really going into it, So in my opinion, there's just immense upside for Lucas Herbert. And if you get him at that number in fields like this, he's somebody you just kind of back. And Kitayama, 2-time winner, on the DP World Tour, almost won the Scottish, almost won the Mexico Open. He's somebody who likes it when it's open off the tee and can find a short game. So I think those two are runaways for me when I kind of look at it from the angle at their prices. And they're full-time. They fall in that trap of maybe the next tier of full-time PGA Tour guys. And when you come over for these events, especially now staying over for a little bit longer, maybe they get a little bit more comfortable. I just love those two.
Yeah, and you think you mentioned obviously that Herbert's I guess Herbert's probably more of a big game player than Kitayama is in terms of those higher fields, but Kitayama's been very consistent on the PGA Tour, and they both won the same amount of European Tour events. I would say that Herbert's slightly more impressive, but and he's won on that PGA Tour against Danny Lee and Patrick Reed, but that was a weird event in itself, the Bermuda, right? So I think Herbert's a great price actually. Definitely one to think about. I thought that Eddie Pepperell around the same price was another one that you could go to. It's one of those ones where you're seeing a lot of inflated prices on people again, like last week, and it's hard to really nail down. So that's why I've kind of gone to the triple digits this time.
I took a long look at Richard Mansell, just because, again, if
do you think he's got a chip on his shoulder, despite the fact that he was 48th reserve or whatever it was?
What was funny? I didn't think he was going to get into this event. He was on the. I'm gonna pull it up as we talk here. I think he snuck into this event by the skin of his teeth, unless he got an invitation. But it wasn't even close for him getting into Wentworth. You can complain about that, but it's a fundamental issue at that point that there's not any type of reshuffle or anything. I was just doing the Corn Ferry Tour shows. Those guys have to play well to keep up with the momentum and be able to get into events. You know what I mean? Mansell is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's the 9th. He's the 9th to last golfer who got into the field this week. So maybe, and it's a perfect course fit. I wish the number would have gotten a little bit deeper, but he probably deserves to be priced similar to where Kawamura is. So I think the 50s is probably fine.
I think with Mansell, it's one of those ones where you're not going to get 50 to 1 about him as soon as Rory and Victor and all that go back to playing PGA Tour events. So you've got to kind of take your opportunity. If you're a long-term believer of Richard Mansell, then I think you've got to take these opportunities in bigger fields, because we've already seen that it doesn't matter if he goes to a weaker event, he doesn't take them down and has problems at the big events, right? He's going to have the same problem in every single event. Kind of what we said about Crocker, kind of what we said about Dietrich, etc. It doesn't seem to matter what event they're going to do it in. It's just going to happen at some point. So if you're a long-term believer in Mansell, I agree with the course being a good one. I kind of wanted to play him just because I thought he was going to be ticked off. And he should be, right? But I thought it was just funny because live players for him not being in. I was like, you could have taken all 18 live players out and he still wouldn't have been anywhere near it. So yes, it's the tour's fault, but yeah, not the live guys necessarily.
Yeah, just a really big issue when it comes to lining up there. I think somebody like Callum Shinkwin could fit the mold of, again, and maybe it's just so easy because more often than not we find ourselves talking how the course is going to set up in a way that we get excited about, and then it's rushing back to the golfers that are our favorite golfers who play that style of golf. Like it probably is just like you get the ball rolling and next thing you know you're halfway down the hill with similar golfers to what you've been betting. But like Shinkwin, I mean, there's probably a tough time leaving off Minwoo Lee in this situation too, So like, I mean, you talk through there, I
think Minwoo Lee is probably deserving of a pick, right? Like I think if we're talking about Mansell being a potential pick at 50 and we like Karamora, then Minwoo Lee, who's won a massive event. The thing with Minwoo Lee is you just never know what's going to happen unless he's playing in a big major. It seems to be that he could just miss a cut at any given point, but
But is that different than Herbert? Is that different than Herbert? You know what I mean?
No, exactly that. Yeah, I just think that with Herbert, again, I think it only strengthens Herbert's point that Herbert's longer than him, and they're probably a similar type of volatility and upside, I guess.
Yeah, I could see myself ending up on Minwoo, and probably will be a decently popular selection as things go. Continuing on, I guess before triple digits, we opened up the show talking about him, but it's the home open, man. And they're giving us 90s. I saw 90-1 this morning when I woke up at Guido. They slashed Molinari in the home open to like 20s.
That really annoyed me because I really wanted to play Francesco after last week. And I was like, what are they going to do with him? Like he was 80-1. Let's get him to 40 or whatever. Like you can cut his price for a top 10 and Italian Open. No, 22-1. I was like, that's just let's pump the brakes a bit. Like I saw him miss a putt like 3 feet for like that. He's not back to the old Molinari of 2018 where he's making everything. He's back to the old Molinari of 2012 where he couldn't make a putt. So yeah, to your point, Guido didn't get the slashing that Francesco has.
That probably I never want to be like conceited or think that we move markets or talk markets, but there seems to be the Migliozzi mafia that we have, that probably the books want us to back Guido. So it might be like that boosted price. We might get Guido at like 190-1 here later on in the week, but a 13th at Wentworth, I mean, outside of the U.S. Open finish, that's by far the best event we've really seen out of Guido on that stage. And what's tough is, I mean, maybe a more open type of course where you can take advantage off the tee, but like not lose yourself off the tee. Right. Last week it's not good off the tee right now. He was playing from trouble, but at a tree line course to finish 13th after struggling off the tee, if he was able to find any of his old ball striking game, literally like half of what he used to be. The dude is like the best around the green and putter out there in the world now. So, you get him making eagles on TV time on Saturday, and then here he is, just finding a way to finish 13th at that event. 90s, I mean, I wear the red, maybe I bust out some green next week that we can get really into it. I mean, absolutely on the card.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing for me was that he isn't hitting the ball as well as we want him to. But as I've sort of said in the past, like if long term that's what his strength is, then you've got to think it's going to come back at some point. Yes, the driving looks a mess, right? But the irons have got to come back. Like they will come back. And for us, we've seen it with Eddie Pepperell, right? Like it's just been a sustained ball striking effort from Pepperell. I don't see why Migliozzi can't do the same. gets back home onto home soil. Maybe that helps. Or I think he doesn't base himself in like the Middle East right now. But yeah, I think it's fine at 90-1. Like I don't necessarily think he's going to win, but he doesn't need to at 90-1.
No. I mean, he just needs to like beat Rory by 6, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then like he's on the Ryder Cup. You know, you win here, you probably guarantee yourself.
What a best way to get yourself on the Ryder Cup team is to win your home open against Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think that like if Rory was coming down the stretch and someone like a Migliotti or a Dietrich's not here as he's playing PGA Tour, if someone that's kind of on those fringes of being on Ryder Cup teams in the past, if someone goes toe to toe with him in the final round, do you think that does anything? I know it's so far out from the Ryder Cup, but do you think that sticks in his memory?
I don't know. I think they're going to have Ryder Cup pairings this week, right? Like literally, I think those pairings matter to those guys, you know, and like put an extra level of pressure onto the event, or maybe they get excited about, you know, like that.
Yeah.
Pressure can go either way, but yeah, I think we're going to see some Ryder Cup. Is Donald? He's playing again.
Donald's playing, yeah.
Yeah, so you get. Yeah, I mean, for those guys, I mean, these opportunities are few and far in between to be in kind of the bigger of the event. So yeah, no, I'm excited for Guido there, and definitely finds my card. But we're aligned on the next selection here, right at triple digits. Talk us through Matthew Southgate being kind of a lock bet for us.
So I think he's probably one of the best bets of the week, right? Like I don't think his game is being followed closely enough, which is good for us, right? Like he's absolutely striping it. 13th, 5th, and 4th his last 3 events in strokes gain approach. 22nd, 11th, and 10th in strokes gain tee to green. Still hasn't won on tour, right? Which is obviously a concern. But we always pigeonhole, and for the right reasons, we pigeonhole Matthew Southgate as a links player because that's just how he keeps his card every year. That's how he performs his best every year. But this isn't a links test, and it's not even by any means a links test, but it's obviously reasonably open. He's hitting the ball incredibly well. He finished 34th here last year when I don't remember him being in great form coming in. Maybe he was. You know, we can look at that. But like, I feel like he's playing some of his best golf, like ball striking tees green right now. That he's the type that I think he's got it between the ears to win. He just for some reason hasn't. Like he's finished second in Dunhill Links, finished second in the Irish Open, he's finished fourth at the Irish Open again, a couple more seconds, European Open, stuff like that. Like he's got it. I don't feel the same about him as someone like a Mansell type thing.
Yeah, I mean you're getting the number too. Like, I think it's, you know, factored. If Mansell was 100, it would be an auto bet for us. You know,
yeah,
it's 50. There's no chance, but maybe not no chance, but like yeah, I agree. I think I talked to Pat about it a little bit today, like being able to like, maybe you have to be a little bit better about like just blindly, like not looking at the names, but looking at the statistics and looking at the profile. And it's just the game of golf, you know, it's just the way things flow and go through. So I think Southgate kind of screams that, that perfect.
I think one thing that I really liked about it was, and it sounds weird that I liked it, but like he missed the first 4 cuts in the Italian Open, then finished 34th last year. So something about that switch suggests to me that this is a more suitable golf course for him than traditional Italian Opens have been in the past. And the way he's playing right now makes me believe he can contend. So that would, you know, factored in with the fact that he wasn't in good form here last year. So he missed the cut at Crans, 44th at the Kazoo, 33rd at the Hero, missed cut at the Kazoo again, 26th at the Scottish. So he's in decent, like really good form right now. Like 3 straight top 23s, a 4th at Maiden Himmerland. I like it.
Yeah, I can definitely kind of get in there. Who else from the deep range stands out to you?
So Mikko Korhonen for me, and I can't remember if it was you or Baroth that said that he was in like a really extended like run of form, and I just didn't really notice it, right? Like, and then he'd finished 8th on this golf course last year. He's got 3 more top 25s in this event at other sites, and before he missed the cut at Wentworth, which is fine considering what was going on there, 12 straight made cuts, 5 top 15 finishes. And yeah, he's like in his twilight years, but he didn't win his first event until 2018, his second event in 2019. So I think he's like ready to have like a big 40s and over like career, right? And just one final round that he missed at Wentworth, like with what was going on, doesn't really put me off. So just the way he's striking the ball, that really long run of form where, you know, he's played well for so long, like 12 cuts in a row is tough. considering what courses they changed to and from on the DP World Tour, I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah, he's definitely one of Baroff's favorites week in and week out. So I can see him with a compelling case always there for it. This is when I get into this range, especially the Italian Open. There's one thing that really stands out to me, and it is the names that we get in this field. Tom, we have some unbelievable names overall. If you had to, I guess the first one that stood out to me from just a pure, beautiful name. Let me see if I want to make sure I don't want to. Yeah, Stefano Mazzoli. That's a great one. We have Gregory DeLeo, Giovanni Manzoni. That's the one right there. You can put that in the Hall of Fame, Giovanni Manzoni. But I just love that they give the invitations to these guys year in and year out.
Yeah, I do, and I think is it a Gregorio DeLeo? Like, I haven't got the pronunciation like you. You sound like a real soprano type thing there. But it's amazing. It's nice to see them in it, and I think you've got one guy that I think you can make a reasonably compelling case for.
Yeah, I think Filippo Celli. Filippo Celli, if you talk about the Open Championship and golfers who performed well and then kind of carried over, we liked him after he played. He had a little stretch of run, so he won the European Amateur, and then he went and finished 47th at the Open Championship. Missed the cut of the kazoo where I liked him and was on, and he was T7 at the Honda the next week. He literally almost won that event. Comes out, misses a cut at the Omega, but then he had a really good. So the World Amateur Team Championship was a couple weeks ago, early September. I guess it was last week, September 3rd. And he played in that, got the invitation. He finished 4th there. That was full of the best amateurs in the world. Data Golf rated that out as literally his best performance on the entire season when it came to a strokes gained perspective. So they had some really, Greaser won that event, who was in the final 8 or really good at the amateur. He's one of the best amateur golfers right now. So you're getting Celli at 500 to 1 this week. It's sad, not sad to say. It's easy to fall into the narrative of the home opening mattering and actually making an impact. But man, we see it all the time on the DP World Tour that some random National Open invitation is there on Sunday. It is not a coincidence that it happens more often than we think it would.
No, I agree. And I think, just thinking back to how well he played at that hander, I remember you putting him up just after the Open and thinking it's fun to put him up, and if he gets the top 20 right, which is what you were kind of talking about, and top 10s and things like that would be great. But didn't really have him down as particularly winning. And then he just played so well that hander invitational, just stuck around all week. He was 3rd at the 36-hole stage, and he shot 72 on Saturday, but he only dropped down to 8th and then shot 68 in the final to finish 7th. That's really impressive for someone at such an early point in his career. He could have easily shot 78 or 80 on Saturday and just fell to 47th, which is what we see from a lot of golfers. Not even just Celli. We see that from Richard Mansell, for example, not to keep picking on him, but it does happen for people that haven't been there before.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's you hope you nail the right one. Now, of the other amateurs that could have not amateurs, or there's a mix of who it's coming from the Italian side. But DeLeo would be the one. He has won 3 times in the last 3 months on the Alps Tour overall. He would probably be, Manzoni has a handful of top 10s or top 7 finishes leading in, but Celli just really stands out. You have and I think it would be Andrea Saracino. You just get some unbelievable Manfredi, Manica. Man, this is
the best part of your week, isn't it? It's just picking through these names and giving them the best pronunciations ever. You've nailed these.
Access had a tweet this morning. Did you see one of the Italian national spots was filled up by Alex Fitzpatrick this week?
That's just amazing.
So, maybe there are some deeper guys that have shown some flashes recently. I was actually surprised I didn't hear you maybe interested in Dan Heising. He's shown a decent run of golf. Now, I wouldn't think it would fit his style of game, but for the long shots. Now, another golfer, I wouldn't be surprised. I need to dig into a little more. But man, I woke up Thursday morning thinking, holy cow, Valimaki might win this thing.
Yeah, I know. He was looking good.
But he was 5 under through 13, and you light up those final 6 holes. You know what I mean? Like, it was there for the taking for Valimaki. He misses the cut, but then you also think about it. It's the first time we've seen Valimaki since like 8 weeks. It was a long stretch of time that we didn't see him. So maybe this rust. We saw Fleetwood show out, shoot an 8 under, and then kind of fall off. Maybe competitive rust. Maybe Valimaki gets that off. I mean, his odds for Sammy are 200. He was 250 last week, so you get 200 in this event. I'll probably end up going back to Valimaki.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that there was quite a dramatic drop off in Paul Waring's price at 125 to 1, like big open course, driving, mattering. He's obviously missed a couple of cuts. And then Tom Lewis again is someone I keep talking about. Yeah, like he's as big as 175 to 1 over here. Like, that seems a bit big for Lewis, who has been showing up. I didn't get to Wentworth Field last week. I think he's better than the odds suggest. So there's the smattering of players here that you could go to. It's a really tough event to nail down. I think because there's such a big gap between the top 3 and then like everybody else. Like, it's hard to narrow down that 40 to 50 to 1 range. You've got Rosner and Minwoo Lee and people like that in there that we haven't really dug in too much about on top of the guys we picked. And it's if you feel confident about Victor, I would play Victor. But like, other than that, I don't think you really need to go to the top 3 guys. Rory wins at 4 to 1, he wins.
I mean, Rosner did the exact same thing that he's been continuing to do. Like, it's unbelievable. He's going to win an event by 15.
Yeah.
Here, it's all going to find 1 week for it. But yeah, I mean, I think he could have been interesting. Yeah, no, I'm okay. Kind of to your point, just starting the card a little bit deeper and kind of going through there and letting the week, kind of fizzle out as it does. I think it's actually a week like that on the PGA Tour a little bit too. It's not even a star-studded by any means, but with the Corn Ferry guys all coming in, I think it's just another week of opportunity. So I'm definitely loading up the places this week and hoping to get lucky.
Yeah, the Fortinet is, again, a really hard event to break down because you want to back some of these guys coming off the Corn Ferry show. I know that you've done a show with our fearless leader, Pat. So, looking forward to listening to that because, these guys need to hear about these Corn Ferry graduates. I do like Justin Sir. I know that there's others that you like, and I'll let you talk about those on the show. But like, I do think it's a good week for that, and I think there's an opportunity for people to win from the outside here. Like, I don't think you necessarily have to pick one of those top 3 guys. I'd just be really worried about Rory, honestly.
Yep, and I actually was able to do a show with Monday Q Info that released late last night. That, I mean, he knows those guys like nobody in the world knows some of these guys. So I think it's really cool to walk through. I basically told the statistical side and did that a little bit more on Pat. But Ryan was able to tell a story pretty much on every single golfer who's graduating, which was really cool and kind of brings it all kind of full circle. So, Tom, let's close out the show here, Italian Open. If you can walk through who your selections are.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Masahiro Kawamura. I think he said he's as big as 66 to 1 over there. I really like Matthew Southgate. I think he's probably my favourite odds-wise pick of the week. Mikko Korhonen, about 125 to 1. I think he's over here. Not sure over there in the States. And then I've kind of got a decision to make about Minwoo Lee, Rosner, that kind of bunch there. But I think Minwoo Lee, like you said, is probably one that we should look at again.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up landing on Minwoo. It just fits that total bill of what I'm doing with Herbert. So for me, so then it's Kitayama 50 to 1. You're getting Herbert at 66 to 1. Minwoo's longest odds right now, he's 60 to 1 still in DraftKings. So he's falling into there for me. And then we're getting our guy, Guido Migliozzi, 90 to 1. And then Shelley. I mean, Shelley's deep down there. Oh, I'm going to go Southgate with you. So I guess I'm up to 6. There we go. We filled it out. So Southgate's 125 to 1 for me. Wow. And then Filippo Celli is 500s at Unibet. He's 500. He's 400 at 365. Does anybody have top 20s out? Yeah, Filippo Celli is plus 850 top 20. So probably end up laddering out to there, and we'll be cheering our little Italian hearts out this weekend, Tom.
We will. We'll be ready for the fist pumps and the Jersey Shore memes by Sunday.
Oh gosh, man, that would be beautiful. Just get in the mix. Get one of these guys up here. Eduardo Molinari was in the mix last year when we saw here, so there's definitely some representation. But hope you guys all enjoy a Ryder Cup preview and enjoy a great field that we're getting, and then we lead into the Open de France next week, and then we're at the Alfred Dunhill. So kind of a great stretch of DP World Tour golf right now. I'm excited.
Yeah, and you talk about that mix. I mean, DP World Tour picks and bets to mix on the audio format as well. So I'm all perfectly aligned there.
Yep. Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. And thank you for closing us out, guys. We appreciate the support as always, and we will catch you next week. Take care.